Right. All right. Peace and blessings. Uh, Hope everybody doing all right. Appreciate y'all taking the time out and checking out the video to listen to me run my mouth. Today I'm going to talk about seed time and harvest time. Seed time and harvest time obviously is, when you plant the seeds and when you reap the harvest, which is usually a seasonal thing. And that is a physical aspect of seeds and harvests and things like that. But there's always a spiritual side as well, on earth as it is in heaven. So, one thing about it, we got to deal with a few elements. We've dealt with water already in other lessons. If you haven't, then definitely go check out the lesson in which we're talking about the water. I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, it's talking about the importance of water and things like that, the spiritual side of water, the anointed side of water. And when you take that water, which we know is always used for growth, especially when we're talking about seeds and things like that, that's a part of the process. We're going to talk about salt today because salt is kind of a byproduct of water to a degree, depending on how it's made, because you have rock salt and you have salt that's made through seawater evaporation, basically. Different types of salts, but nevertheless, salt is important as well. So, we got to talk about these things, but definitely we could go ahead and dive into it. Before I dive into it, I got to get in a better habit of doing this. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all those things, please. It definitely helps. I definitely appreciate it. All right, so we're going to get it started. Leviticus 2 and 13. Leviticus chapter 2 and 13. And while we're getting, I just want to say this. A lot of times, people are wondering why things happen the way they do in their life. And hopefully, with this lesson, I'll be able to show, at least to a degree, because I know everybody's not the same, but to a degree, show why certain things you do can cause, your immediate future and far future to be kind of altered a little bit. And sometimes we don't even have no idea that the things we're doing in the present or the things that we've done in the past can definitely have a bearing on our future. So we hopefully we'll be able to get through that. I don't know if this is going to split and be a part one or part two. We'll see though. So we're going to get it started. Leviticus 2 and 13. All right, it says, "And every oblation of thy meat offering shall thou season with salt." Now, before we even continue, because I know my people love salt, but why is the Lord concerned about how you season your offering? He's not eating it. I don't think he care about how something tastes to your taste buds. So why is he saying this? Obviously, it has to be a reason it's in here. So we're going to see that. It says, "Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of thy covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt." So the salt is just like everything else we read. It is a symbolic method that God uses to show something. So we got to see what does this salt show? Because obviously it's a part of the covenant, and the covenant, a part of the covenant, when he's telling you to do your offerings this way, he wants you to season the meat with salt, and then he's saying that thy God, that the covenant of thy God to be lacking from the meat offering. He don't want it to be lacking. Hopefully we can see that, but let's continue. "And if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits." So whenever you get ready to do a meat offering, you would take the first fruits, which is the firstlings or the firstings or whatever of your cattle, because we're talking about meat offering. And once you sacrifice that, that's what we're talking about here. It says, thou shalt offer for the meat offering of thy first fruit green ears of corn dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. So then it says that thou shalt put oil upon it and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. So why is it saying put oil on it? Like the oil and the salt have to mean something. We've seen before the oil representing the anointing. What exactly does the salt represent? Let's keep going. Matthew 5 and 13. Matthew chapter 5, 5 and 13. All right. Ye are the salt of the earth. So now he's telling Israel, you are the salt of the earth. Now, we just got finished reading about the covenant in which he said, listen, don't let the meat go unsalted or unflavored. We need that to be salted. And this salt is for the representation of something. Now we see who is the salt, or who is the salt representing? Us, the Israelites. It says, you are the salt of the earth. So out of all the earth out here, out of all the different nations, all the different peoples, he said, you, Israel, you are the salt. What does that mean? Because we're not putting nobody down. But I think it's about time that we start lifting some people up that's been put down. And those are the children of God. So what does the salt do? It gives flavor. He's saying you are the flavor out of everybody out here. This is why everybody wants to bite off of you. Let's keep going. That's crazy, ain't it? I know that's wild. Let's keep going. Anyway, we'll talk about it. But if the salt has lost his savior, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and be trodden under foot of men. So he said, listen, you the salt of the world, but don't start getting too all high and mighty, because guess what? If you just so happen to lose your flavor, you ain't worth nothing. Now you getting tossed out and trampled over. And that's what's happened to Israel today. Oh, but he's reseasoning us. We'll see that in another time. Let's keep going, though. Neither do men, hold on, 14, I'm tripping, 14. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Well, you know, Israel, Jerusalem is the holy mountain, right? On the hill, mountain, same thing. And you were supposed to be the light. Because he said a light on the hill, it cannot be hid, right? He says also, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. So everybody around you should be able to see your light and be able to see how to get to you, because you are the person with the light. You are the guide out of everybody around. And whenever they can get to you, you are the salt that you should be able to season everybody else with. See, everybody else is bland and understanding. But as you season them with the salt that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has given to you, now everybody comes into the fold together with the seasoning. That's what he's talking about. He just used salt because Israel is represented by salt, and we covered that with the flavor. But I'm not going to, I got a couple more things, so I ain't going to do too much right here. Let's get Psalm 63 and 1. Psalm 63 and 1. All right. Psalms chapter 63, verse 1. A psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. O God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. So at this point, he's saying, listen, I'm thirsty for you. I want that water. I need that well to spring forth that river of everlasting life, but I can't find no water around. So that's why I said, my flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land. That's why the land is considered dry and thirsty, because there's no water there. Now, keep in mind, how is salt made? Because if you want to become the salt so that you could flavor other people, you have to figure out how it's salt made. Well, I told you earlier, natural salt. See, sometimes we want to become the wrong type of salt. We want to be that man-made salt. Natural salt is made by what? Basically water that's kind of like evaporated. So, and that's why they call it sea salt, because it's seawater. Seawater that's evaporated. Now, if it takes water to make salt, and you want to be the salt of the earth, what is it that you need? Obviously, water, right? But if you're in a dry and thirsty land and there's no water there, how could you ever go through the process of becoming salt to be able to season anyone else? Let's continue. It says, to see thy power and thy glory, so as I have seen thee in the sanctuary, because thy loving kindness is better than life. My lips shall praise thee. Thus will I bless thee while I live. I will lift up my hands in thy name. So this is why he's asking for. And we see, well, I ain't gonna jump ahead. But we see he's asking for this water from the Most High because all around him is dried up, right? You can kind of see this in today's church system. I like to call it church system because it's systematic programming. But when you go to church, you're not getting the law, statute, commandments for the most part. You're not getting prophecies revealed and revelations broke down to you out of the Bible. You're getting what somebody else wants to give you outside of the Bible. That's not water, but it's because they don't have the oil either. Let's continue. Let's get Colossians 4:6. Colossians 4:6. It's crazy how that salt and water go together. Right, Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. It says, let your speech be always with grace. So when you talk to people, be gracious to them. The same grace that Most High gave you to come into this thing, allow other people to have that. You know, sometimes a person gets sick and somebody will understand, and the first thing you say to the person is, oh, you must have done did something to cause yourself to get sick. And even if that is the case, that ain't the time they want to hear that. Grace, where's the grace at? You already know that in the back of your mind. Let that person bring it to you. A lot of times we go to people in the wrong spirit and wonder why they don't accept us. Let your speech be always with grace. But what's next? Seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. If you want to know how to answer people, you got to have the right seasoning, right? You have to be seasoned with salt. But notice, seasoned, the root word, which everybody can see, is season. Now, a season is a time, right? But seasoned with ED is not talking about time, or is it? Maybe we're talking about seasoned with salt because he wants you to go through that process of getting the water and becoming that salt so that you are naturally seasoned. And when you study, when you get these laws and commandments under your belt, when you get you some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and you pray and you fast, you seek his face, and you become seasoned, that's how you'll be able to answer every man. Because the Most High is going to give it to you according to how he see fit, right? So the only thing you can do is put yourself in position for him to see fit. Let's continue though. Let's continue. Let's get Proverbs 18:4. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 4. All right. Um, You know what? I'm gonna start at verse 1. I might need to put this on here so I can next time. But yeah, I'm gonna start at verse 1 because I kind of like what it's talking about. All right, so it says, through desire, a man having separated himself seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. A fool has no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy, reproach. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. So it went from talking about the desire of a man. It says, through desire a man having separated himself. So the first thing that happened was separation, right? Then it says, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. So when you separate yourself, you're seeking wisdom, right? That's why you are putting that time to the side to seek it, because you separated from everything else, everyone else. This also happened when the Israelites came out of Egypt. They were separated and sanctified from all the other nations besides those that may have came out of Egypt with them, the mixed multitude. And that's when they first got the milk of the word and the oracles of God. And, not first got as far as biblically, but first got as far as when they came out of Egypt. We know that sin has always been here, obviously, but they had it reinstituted to them after coming out of the ideology of the Egyptian entities. So they had their slate wiped clean, and they were supposed to have a renewed mind after grabbing hold to the oracles of God in the wilderness. But they had to be separated first. And what happened after they were separated? It says the words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. So wisdom should spring out of a man's mouth and flow like a brook. And that is the deep waters it's talking about. But what do those deep waters do? After that evaporation process, it creates salt. So the Israelites was getting some real deal teaching from the Most High Himself, giving it to I guess Moses, the mediator, and Moses giving it to them. But they was able to sometimes see the thunders and the lightnings and the things that would make them see, oh, he's there. This is real. And they took hold to that. And when they did, that not only allowed them to become wiser, but it allowed them to progress in that milk. The problem is they did not cut off their sin. So only their children got to go forth. But their children went forth with understanding. Let's keep going now. Let's get let's drop down. No, that's not. Let me see. Proverbs 20 and 4. I was about to say drop down. That's a whole different chapter. Proverbs 20 and 4. All right. It says, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. Counsel in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. See, if you got understanding, you're going to that well to get that water. And if you drop that bucket in there, once you feel it getting heavy, water coming in here. So you pulling that bucket back out of the well so that you could get your water. That is how understanding is supposed to be brought or drawn out. But where are you drawing it out of? The counsel in the heart of a man. So a lot of us have had too much pride to do that. You got somebody who actually is dealing with the Most High. They got some wisdom and knowledge and understanding. You should be trying to draw as much of that out as you can. But let's handle the first part. It says the sluggard would not plow. So the lazy person, he's not going to get out there and plow his field. If you don't plow your field so that you can plant any seeds, how can you expect a harvest? This is the equivalent to all talk, no action. You got a lot of people who are going to talk, but they never do anything towards whatever it is that they're talking about, whether it's personal goals and ambitions or dealing with the Most High. Neither one of those are going to be working out for you if all you're doing is talking, because you won't even plow your field, much less go out there and plant seeds. But we're going to see a little bit more about that. But we finally made it from the salt to starting to talk about the water and the harvest. We needed to know about the salt first, because before you can even plant any seeds, before you can even plow a field for a harvest, you actually have to be salted and seasoned first. Because when do you plant? In the right season, right? And seasoned is the past tense of season, right? So we know you have season as far as time, and you have season as far as what people are saying you put on food. But what people are not understanding, it's the same word for a reason. Because even the things that you put on food have to be grown when? During their proper seasons. We do things sometimes not in their proper season, and we don't understand why the harvest is improper. Sometimes God wanted you to do this 3 months ago. Now you're getting around to doing it. And guess what? You done missed your season. Kind of reminds me of what was it? I think it was the 5 Heartbeats. And Eddie Kane finally showed up with his old outfit on, saying he still got it. You know what I mean? You remember that? He was ready to go now. He's singing there. I'm looking at him like, man, we already done found your replacement. We got love for you, but this ain't gonna work. But you got to think it's because he missed his time. He wasn't ready when his time came. See, the fortunate thing for us, the Most High will give you another opportunity. When is that gonna happen? The next season. So you got to start finding out in your life, when things happen, the season, the cause and the effect. The cause and effect is based on the seeds that was planted, or sometimes none planted at all. This is why you understand the salt first, because once you become seasoned and aware of the season, you can go and be ready. Okay, look, in 2 months, it'll be time. For example, a farmer could say, in 2 months, man, it'd be time to plant those tomatoes. So in 1 month, let's go out there and make sure our field is good. Let's go out there and plow it and have it ready. So all we got to do is go out there and drop seeds. Sometimes you can do things in preparation towards planting your seeds, so that when that season comes, you are ready. Scripture said, be ready instant, in season, and out of season. That's why it has in season and out of season. Let's continue. Let's get Genesis 8:22. Doing a lot of talking, so let's get some scriptures. Let's get some more scripture. Genesis 8:22. It says, while the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest time, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So there's a seed time and a harvest time. There's a cold time and a winter time. Heat time. There's a summertime and a winter time. It didn't say nothing about spring or fall, because that's not biblical. You only got 2. Man said you got 4 seasons, so he can institute his equinoxes and things like that to worship his gods. And we'll fall for it. But if you don't even know that it's 2 seasons and you thinking it's 4, guess what? You might do something in or out of the wrong season. Just by chance. You're just out there at the wrong time. Let's continue. I just wanted to show you here that there's a seed time and a harvest time, and that it's only 2 times a year, summer and winter. So you got to figure out what to do during these times so that you can be prepared for your harvest. Leviticus 26:3. Leviticus 26:3. Now I know we're talking a whole lot of what seems to be physical time. Like, man, brother, real, I ain't trying to plant no crops, I ain't no farmer. You are a farmer spiritually, because there's spiritual crops for you to plant, and we're going to eventually get there. Leviticus 26:3. This is why you need to understand on earth as it is in heaven, because a lot of things have that similitude. All right, let's see. Leviticus 26:3. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them. Let's pause right there. Whose laws and commandments and statutes do we have to walk in? God's, right? That's pretty simple. Not nobody else's. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield her fruit. Yes, this sounds physical, but like I said, eventually I'm going to show you the crossover into the spiritual. But understand the physical first. What is he saying? You got to walk in my statutes. That's verse 3. Verse 2 lets you know an example of what he's talking about when he says, and keep my commandments and do them. Verse 2 says, ye shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. You ain't even keeping the Sabbath. You're not walking in his statutes and commandments. So why would you expect rain in due season? Now, when did it say that rain would be? Did it say it'd be late? Did it say it'd be early? No, it said in due season. So guess what? You might get that rain in the wrong season for what it is that you're trying to grow. Wasted seeds. I gotta wait till next season. Oh, trust me, I've learned the hard way. So let's dig into this rain though. It says, I will give you rain in due season. And what does that rain do? It makes the land yield her increase, and the trees yield their fruit. So the rain is what, and I'm not going to break down germination and all that for the seed, but the rain is what basically allows the seed to grow. And of course, we know that he is the light. So there's always going to be sunlight, or SON light, to make these seeds grow. Now we're physically talking about seeds in the earth, but if we could mentally or spiritually think about the seeds that we plant in that realm and they work the same way, you could change a lot of what happens in your life. Because the seed needs water, right? The first thing that needed water was you, the planter, the farmer, Mr. Green Thumb. He needed water first. He had to be seasoned first, right? Once he became salt and understood season, then he said, okay, now I need to plant my seeds in the right season. Because there is certain seasons for certain things. Then he said, okay, now I got to keep God's laws, statutes, and commandments. So he would give my seeds that I planted rain in due season. I need it in the due season because I don't want it too late or too early. I mean, you might get the crop that you're looking for, but it might not be fully grown, or it might didn't grow properly because it didn't get enough rain, because half the rain was in the season, but the other half wasn't. All these things are important in your spiritual life, because the things you say are planting seeds, the things you do are planting seeds. The people you around, when they plant seeds and something grow, it may still be a thorn to you. If they plant seeds and it turns into thorns and thistles, and you over there with them, you're gonna get poked too. All of these things matter a whole lot more than what people think, but we'll continue. Matter of fact, I'm sorry, let's get 5. It says, and your threshing shall reach unto the vintage, and the vintage shall reach unto the sowing time. So there's a sowing time for sowing seeds. And ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land. So wait a minute. You keep the law, statutes, and commandments not only helps your physical things you got to deal with, but the spiritual. It helps the seed and everything around the seed. The seed is planted in the land. So he's taking care of the land, which means he gonna take care of the beasts, because you got evil beasts, as the scripture said. You got some beasts that's gonna come for you, some beasts that are coming eat up your crops. But if you're doing what you're supposed to do, he's taking care of the whole land, so you don't gotta worry about nothing. You just till the ground, plant the seed. He'll send the water and the sunlight, because he is the water and the word and the light. And the truth. All you gotta do is plant the seed. But boy, we be overworking. Let's keep going on. Let's get Deuteronomy 11 and 13. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 13. All right. And it says, and it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments. I like them little words like that. Diligently. Not just if you listen, but I want you to listen diligently unto my commandments, which I command you, this day, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I would give you rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. And I was seeing grass in thy fields for the cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. So listen, he taking care of the whole land once again. The cattle. See, now you might have to go, man, I got to buy some food to feed. No, he gonna take care of the cattle. He gonna take care of the seeds you planted. So your corn, your wine, your oil, all that he taking care of by giving rain in its due season and the proper light. All you had to do was become seasoned in whatever it is that you are doing planting, so that you can know when to plant it and when not to plant it, because the season matters, obviously, because your rain has to be in due season. You don't think your seeds have to be planted in due season? If you plant seeds way before the rain season, they just gonna be sitting there. Notice it said the first rain and the latter rain. How many rain seasons do we have? 2. The Bible ain't never failed us. Let's keep going now. Let's keep going. Jeremiah 5. You know what? I got some more of this. I done ran too fast. Let me pick it up. I'm glad I looked back. Verse 16 is where I'm picking it up. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. See, it didn't say willingly, did it? It didn't say you gonna turn and you just gonna know what you're doing and go and you're gonna worship these other gods. It says, take heed to yourself that your heart be not deceived. A lot of us are deceived into worshiping other gods, and we don't even realize it. Then it says, and then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you. So he didn't care if it was an accident or not, if you was deceived or not. You know why? Because he told you, if you just stay focused on me, you're not worried about nothing. You can't be deceived if you keep your eyes on him. It says, and he shut up the heaven. So this is what happened when he gets mad. He closes the heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest ye perish quickly from off the land, good land which the Lord giveth you. So if you don't want to perish off the land and have heaven close up to the point that you don't get the rain, you got to stay focused on the Most High. See, imagine if we could understand this from the spiritual side. Everybody want him to rain down blessings, right? But guess what? When he closed the doors of heaven and ain't no more rain, no blessings raining down, you got to think, this is why. Because you went and did stuff that he did not authorize you to do, and you breaking his laws and commandments. So it don't just affect you physically in the land, it affects you spiritually also. Verse 18. Therefore ye shall lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou rise up. Now, think about this. So far, most of the places we're going to, if not all of them, he's talking to you about the land, right? The how to get the crops going, the plants or whatever. What you got to do for him to take care of you as far as agriculture. But then in the same place that we're reading about that, he starts telling you, oh, yeah, this same stuff is going to affect you personally as well as mankind. Not just, oh, you want everything going to be good in your personal life, you just ain't going to have no rain for your crops. In the same chapter, he's telling you it's going to hurt you also as individuals, which means it's spiritual too. These spiritual things affect you. Let's get Jeremiah 5 and 23. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 23. But this people have a revolting and a rebellious heart. They are revolted and gone. Neither say they in their heart, let us now fear the Lord our God, that giveth rain, both the former and the latter, in his season, two rain seasons again. He reserved unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. Even the harvest time is the time that you go out there and get the stuff out of the field. Even that has an appointed time. So you got to learn these times because it is the physical harvest and it is a spiritual harvest. We will get there. So if you don't know these times of the harvest, you really don't know the time to plant. If you don't know the time to plant, you probably don't know the time to go out there for the harvest. Even if you know one and not the other, by the time you go out there to get your harvest, it's too late. So you got to know these things. And these things happen in your life, you got to know them too. Excuse me, it says he reserved unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. But what does he say right after that? For anybody that's doubting what I'm saying and saying, man, look, I think you just found something nice to twist together, but this is only talking about the fruit of the land and the cattle and the agriculture. As soon as he told you about the harvest, what is the very next thing in verse 25? Your iniquities have turned away these things, and your sins have withholden good things from you. So you mean to tell me I don't care how good of a farmer you are, you can have two of the greenest thumbs we've ever seen. It don't matter if you go out there and plant your stuff with all your knowledge of agriculture or whatever you want to call it. Your iniquity can change that. Your sin can withhold the good things. What that tells me is on earth as it is in heaven. I don't care how good of a farmer you are when it comes to the physical, you better start learning how to farm in the spiritual and plant the right seeds there, because if not, your sins will turn them away. Verse 26, for among my people are found wicked men. They lay wait as he that setteth snares, they set a trap, they catch me. So now he's just going into some of the sins that they're doing. I'll get one more. As a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. Therefore, they are become great and waxing rich. So other people will get rich off of you, and the Most High will allow that because of your sin. See, this was supposed to be us, but we turn our hearts away from the Most High into other gods and personal ambitions. Sometimes a God became ourselves. I want to do this. I can do this. I can do that. Now we at the point we'll tell somebody what God purpose is for them and for us. Now you redirecting somebody's life based on what you think. But at the end of the day, if you can't prove that through the scriptures, that's a dangerous game to play. Proverbs 10 and 3. Proverbs 10 and 3. It says, the Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. So he's letting you know, basically, he's going to take care of you if you're doing what you're supposed to do. Once again, the Lord will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish. So when it says famish, what is that? That's when you don't have enough food, right? Where you get your food from? Agriculture, your cattle, and your crops. And what do you do to get crops? You plant seed. And what do you need for your cattle to survive? The grass and the water. And he's telling you, I got you on all these things. But it says, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked. He becometh poor that dealeth with the slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. But what does it mean when it say diligent? He said you have to diligently listen to him. Let's get verse 5. It says, he that gathereth in summer is a wise son. Uh-oh, what is it that you gather? Is it the harvest? Is there a harvest in the summer? Because now you know when to go out and gather. Ain't no need to go out there and gather if you didn't plant nothing though. He that gathereth in the summer is a wise son. But he that sleepeth in the harvest is a son that causes shame. Y'all see that? So you got to know when to go and get it. You got to know. But obviously you need to know when to plant. Now me, if I didn't know when to plant, I would plant year round. As far as my spiritual seeds, not the physical ones, my spiritual seeds. Anytime I could plant, I would try to plant. Because guess what? You got nothing to lose and you got nothing but time while you're here. Do good by people all the time. So when that time of the harvest comes, you will be expecting something. Let's keep going. Let's get Proverbs 25 and 13. Proverbs 25 and 13. As cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him, for he refresheth the soul of his masters. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So we got the second harvest. It says, as the cold of snow in the time of harvest. So there's a harvest during the time where it's going to be cold when it could be snow. Now, what we got to do is understand that these things are based, we know these harvest times are spiritual and physical, because the spiritual harvest times, the physical harvest times where you will go and literally reap what you've sown, is based off of a spiritual holy day calendar. Because when the new year come in, the summer starts. Not January, no. When the real new year come in and what people call spring, but which is actually summertime, the earth is refreshed. And then you see things blooming and budding. And so when you planted that seed in the summertime come in, okay, you have something called first fruits, which is a holy day. First fruits is the first harvest. And now when it get cold outside, there's going to be a second harvest, which is normally around October, November-ish. So obviously it must be two harvests and two times to sow. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Ecclesiastes 3 and 1. Ecclesiastes 3, and we're going to start at the top. All right. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun, under the heaven. So what we got to understand here is when it says there is a season to everything, now we know there has to be a spiritual season, because there's only one season to agriculture. 2 seasons to agriculture, summer and winter, and it's for the same thing, for you to reap what you've sown in the ground. So let's look at some of these other things that there's a season to. Verse 2. A time to be born. That's a season. And a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Now we understand planting and plucking up, that's your physical, put your seeds in the ground and reap your harvest. But what about born and die? See, there's a time to plant the seed for a child to be made in the womb. The Most High fill that child, fill that womb with the Spirit. And guess what? That child goes through a certain amount of time, season, before it's actually born, which would be the harvest. This is why a woman don't just have the baby the next day after she get pregnant. It goes through a time, which is a season for everything. No different than a time to die. It says to every man is appointed a time to die, right? One death. So your lifetime is a life of a lifetime of you planting seeds, but you are also a seed that has been planted, and you go through your life. That time is your season to live. And then there comes a time where you must be reaped by the Most High and you die. It says a time to kill, whether that be war, whether that be self-defense, however you look at it, there's a certain time where you're going to have to do that. But there's also a certain time to heal. And usually these things are seasonal too. These things cannot be done at any time. They have to be done at a time that the Most High has appointed. See, we don't know these times sometimes, so we get upset and just make up a time. But if we just follow him, he already done mapped it out. It says a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Tell me we all in our lives, because see, these are things that are seasons, right? And all these things are the seasons show that there's a spiritual side to reaping and sowing and a physical. Tell me we haven't all went through life and had a season in our life where we had to weep, we had to cry, we had to go through some things. Tell me we ain't all had a time where we had to mourn, as the scripture said. Tell me there hasn't been a time where everything was good and we was joyful and we was laughing, and a time to dance. Tell me there hasn't been a time when we had to break things down and just kind of separate, and a time where we had to bring things together and build up. All these are things that are your spiritual seasons for. I mean, that you have spiritual seasons for. You just have to find out what is required to get these things. And what that answer is based on what you reap. I mean, what you sow. Because you reap what you sow. If you want to understand why am I going through this all the time, backtrack, be honest with yourself, and say, I did do this, I did do that, this caused this. There's usually a cause for a reaction. So if there's a time to weep and your weeping time is way longer than somebody else's, you might need to investigate that. Why am I always going through this? What am I doing or allowing to be done to continue in this weeping season? I can never get the time to laugh and dance. Well, you haven't planted any seeds that will promote that. All your seeds are negative, which are breaking down and killing and weeping. So you have time for all these things. And you haven't gotten to the time to heal, because what seed do you need to plant to heal? You need to plant a seed of repentance, a seed of forgiveness. But if you don't plant those seeds in your life, why would you expect to reap the harvest of healing and laughing and dancing? Let's continue. Verse 5. Verse 5. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. To lose. So what you got to understand, there's going to be a time in your life you're going to get things. There's a time you're going to lose things. It's seasonal. What controls the seasons? The Most High controls the seasons. What controls what you get in the seasons? You and your actions and your words. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. So there's a time you ripping things apart and a time you sewing things together. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. See, we all need to learn that one. We all need to learn that one. A time to love and a time to hate. So people don't even understand love and hate. These things are shown by your actions. There's a time to show love for stuff. It's a time to show hatred for stuff. It's certain things I hate and I'm not going to accept because I know that if I do, what that harvest is going to be for that seed that I'm accepting. A time for war and a time for peace. See, you got a time to kill and a time of war, right? War is usually something that's going to last a little longer than just your momentary time to kill. Some of these seasons may go together, some of them may not. But what we got to understand is the season is based on God, but the harvest is based on man and what he decides to sow into his spiritual life. We'll continue at verse 9. What profit has he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth? I have seen the travail which God has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He has made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he has set the world in their heart so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. And also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good, all of his labor, the good of all of his labor. It is a gift of God. Well, that's if your labor is righteous. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it. That men should fear before him. See, God, nothing can be added or taken away from God. The scriptures tell us not to add and take away. But even if you do, it doesn't change God because his stuff going to stay all the way across the board. So what happens is sometimes we may have added or taken away from God, and we thinking that something is godly and it's not. And you planting seeds or investing in something that you think is godly, but it's not. So you go outside and expect a godly harvest, and it's not. Got to understand that. That which has been now, and that which has been already, and I missed that always. That which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been. And God required that which is past. So what he's telling you is, look, certain things gonna happen over and over again. There's nothing new under the sun. We do know that. And life sometimes go in a cycle because we do the same things. If you choose to break the cycle, if it's bad, obviously, if it's good, keep it going. If it's bad and you choose to break the cycle, that is how you change the things in your life that are negative. Look at it again. That which has been is now, which means all the stuff that has been is still going on now. And that which is to be has already been. The stuff that's to be, your future, is something that you already went through because you're still learning the same lesson. But God requires that which is past. So just because your time passed and you messed up, don't mean you get to move on. God required that back, way back there. So guess what? You're going to wait for that season to come back around again so that you can fix it. I don't want to have to do that. Luke 4 and 12. Luke chapter 4, verse 12. All right, Luke 4 and 12. Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? Jesus answered and said to her, talking about the story of the woman in the well, at the well, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life. Now, why is Christ saying this? Why is Christ saying this? Because, see, whenever you're talking about this water, we know what the water does. The water is what causes man to become seasoned and understand everything he needs to do so that in the right season, he can go and plant, right? So we know the importance of the well, and also, of the water, and that well has an unlimited supply of water, which means you will always have all the water you need for your seeds. You just got to deal with the connection, which is the Most High. He's the one with the water. You don't want to be walking around looking for water in an area dried up. You want to stay connected to the water supply. Sometimes that's what happened, though. We get disconnected from the water supply. Now we got to go back and find the water. Let me see. Let's also let's get Hebrews 11 and 24. Hebrews 11 and 24. All right. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. So, because he was looking towards the future of the reward from Christ, he gave up what he could have in Egypt. Let's continue. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch him. So sometimes it's going to take faith and endurance to continue and get through your season. But let's look at 25. It says he chose rather to suffer affliction with the people of God. See that choice that he had to make, that sacrifice? A lot of us ain't willing to do that, but we want something from God. But he knew the reward he would get from God was way better than the treasures of Egypt, and he knew what to do to get it. Your actions are your seeds that you planted. So what seed did he plant? He suffered affliction, then to enjoy sin. Why is that? Because he had the understanding of this. Even sin is seasonal as far as the pleasures of it. It says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. So sometimes we make the wrong decision for the moment that we in, because sin is pleasurable for a season. You're going to enjoy it. But when that time is up, you're going to look back and say what you should have done. And when that season for sin is up, that season for sin is also known as your grace period. Now there's no more mercy. Now it's time for you to pay the price, because when that season, at the end of the season, what comes? Harvest. So if you had a season of sin, you may have enjoyed it, but now it's time for you to go on out there and reap that harvest. Go ahead out there and get all the produce of sin. And this is why we in the situation we are in as a people, and individually, because we decide to take sin for that season, because we're not understanding that's the seed you planting. And then when God say, okay, here you go. This is what grew out of the ground for you. Misery, heartache. Yeah, you could take both of those with you. What else grew out of the ground? Because that's a long season. You planted all types of stuff. Oh, yeah. Loneliness. Yeah, that's yours too. What's the other one? Depression, stress. All these things are the benefits, if you want to call them that you get from sin. But that season was so you enjoyed your life during that time. You got men and women who live through their 20s and 30s, enjoying life, doing all kinds of stuff. No wife, no husband, whatever. Next thing you know, they realize, man, I'm 50 years old and I don't have anything and I don't have anyone. I enjoyed a season in which I was doing things and not planting the right seeds. It ain't just sin. Sometimes you might be okay. You're just not planting those seeds of righteousness. But now you got to reap the harvest of growing old alone. I know this thing may hurt sometimes, but hearing the truth, that's what happens. The truth is gonna set you free. But to be set free, sometimes you might have to take a little pain and understand this is the reason behind your outcome, your life choices. And if you are still alive, the great thing about it is never too late to change. It's just up to you to change. All right, let's get 1 Peter 1 and 5. 1 Peter 1 and 5. I think I'm gonna, after this, I'm gonna call it here and just do part 1 and part 2 because I don't wanna overdo my time, my mental time that I'll be trying to stay at. I know I got a little bit more left. So we're gonna get 1 Peter 1 and 5, and we're gonna end it here. Let's see. It says the elders. 1 Peter, no, that ain't 1 and 5. I'm at 5 and 1. Okay, a little bit of dyslexic going on. All right, 1 Peter. Let me make sure. 1 Peter 1 and 5. There we go. Good gosh. All right. Yeah. Who are kept by the power of God through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time. Even salvation has a season for it to happen. Then it says, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations. So there's actually a time or a season for temptation. We know that because there was a season whenever Christ went through temptation. And when was that? Right while he was doing his spiritual, what some people call spiritual cleansing, but he was fasting. And while he was doing that, that's when Satan came with the temptation, while he's trying to get closer, while he's trying to work on the things spiritually, or even if it's just one of those things where I feel like I'm good, but I want to take some time out to get closer to the Father. However you want to look at it, that's when Satan seemed to have came with that temptation. And that was for a season. We see that, right? It says verse 7, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. So what you want out of this is, whenever Christ gets here, you want to be able to say that you overcame your trials and tribulations and test of faith, all these different things. But in order for that to happen, you're going to have to endure it for a season. As you can see, it says in verse 6, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations. You're going to go through a lot of stuff, especially if you're trying to be righteous. You see, if you are living a wicked life, why is the Most High going to have any interest in Satan testing you to see if you're real or not? He already see whose side you're on. But when you start saying you want to walk with the Most High, you want to deal with the Most High, expect many temptations. And those seasons are going to come and go. And in those seasons of temptation, that's a season to plant with your actions. Because there's a harvest after the temptation. And in that harvest, that's when you'll be able to truly see where you stand at, because you're going to get the produce of your works. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop here for part 1. And I'll pick it up part 2. Let's see. Part 2 will be starting with 2 Timothy 4 and 1. Just want to throw that out there. If anybody want to just read that. But let me see. Season trial. I just make sure I want to stop here. Okay, yeah, that's good. So let me see. Yeah, appreciate y'all time. I'll be back with part 2.